This evening is the regular monthly meeting of the Town of Fairfield RTM meeting. Today is Monday, June 26th. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Pat Ambrose.
Here.
John Jones.
Here.
Mary McCullough. Here. Keith Varian.
Here.
Bill Gerber.
Here.
Tim Lynch. Eric Newman.
Here.
Cindy Perham. Heather Dean. Alex Durrell.
Here.
Robin Orris. Ron Pine.
Here.
Jen Hochberg.
Here.
Aaron Lopez.
Here.
Phil Pierce.
Here.
Liz Esma.
Here.
Josh Garskoff.
Here.
Ruth Smay.
Here.
Carol Way.
Here.
Jay Walk.
Here.
Matt Ambrose. Hannah Gale.
Here.
Pam Jones. Ray Newberger. Tom McCarthy.
Here.
Mark McDermott. Jill Vergara.
Here.
Karen Wackerman. Hank Ferentz.
Here.
Pamela Iacono.
Here.
Christine Messina.
Here.
Pete Telemann.
Here.
Brian Farnan.
Here.
Drew Georgiadis.
Here.
Ken Lee. Bill Perugini. Sam Cargill.
Here.
Paul Fatabeen.
Here.
Michael Hurley.
Here.
Eric Sunman.
Will you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is to consider and act upon the minutes of the annual budget meeting held on May 1st, 2017, and the minutes of the regular monthly meeting held on May 22nd, 2017. May I have a motion to approve. Representative Ambrose, seconded by Representative Dean. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Next item on the agenda is to receive the assessor's report. This was heard in committee. There were no issues or follow-up that I was informed of. Next item is to receive a report from the Affordable Housing Committee. Again, heard in committee. There were no issues or follow-up that I was made aware of. Item number 5, resolved that the RTM does not reject the change to Section 5.5 of the Rules and Regulations of the Town of Fairfield Employees Retirement System adopted by the Employees Retirement Board on May 24th, 2017 as follows. 5.5 written application required. Every person retiring under the plan shall be required to complete a written retirement application supplied by the Retirement Board. Members must apply in writing in a form and manner prescribed by the Board 3 months in advance of the first month for which the benefits are payable. The Board, in its sole discretion, may waive the requirement of 3 months advance application period upon request of an applicant who demonstrates that waiting the 3-month period would cause a hardship due to unforeseen circumstances. If the Board grants a waiver, the applicant may begin receiving the pension benefit the first day of the month after the application is submitted. Is there a motion to approve? Representative Ambrose, seconded by Representative Zezima. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, any member of the public wish to speak to this? Back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention. Opposed? Representative Fatabeen, abstentions? Seeing none, the item carries. Item number 6, to hear and consider and act upon the following reappointments to the Ethics Commission as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. David G. Bothwell, Republican, 235 Shoreham Village Drive, term 2017 to 2019. Janice Carpenter, Republican, 144 Harbor Road, term July 2017 to 2019. Loretta J., Democrat, 116 Rolling Ridge Road, term 2017 to 2019. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Zagara, seconded by Representative Georgiadis. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, any member of the public wish to speak to this? Back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Congratulations to those 3 people, and thank you for continuing your service on the Ethics Commission. Item number 7, to hear and consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Resolved that the lease agreement between the Town of Fairfield and Operation Hope for the continued use of the property at 50 Nichols Street from May 15th, 2017 to May 14th, 2027 for a shelter and to provide other services for the homeless in Fairfield be and hereby is approved, and further resolved that the First Selectman, Michael C. Tetro, be and hereby is authorized hereby to execute the lease agreement on behalf of the Town of Fairfield. Moved by Representative Hochberg, seconded by Representative Dean. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, any from the public? Back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Abstentions? Opposed? Item carries. Item number 8, to consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Resolved that the application received under the Neighborhood Assistance Act program are hereby approved, and that the Director of Community and Economic Development is hereby designated as the municipal liaison of the Town of Fairfield for this program. Motion to approve. Representative McCullough, seconded by Representative McCarthy. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, anyone from the public wish to address this item? Back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Item number 9, to consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Resolved that the program year 43, October 1st, 2017, September 30th, 2018, Community Development Block Grant is hereby approved in the amount of $480,000, which includes entitlement grant funds of $468,093 and program income of $11,907, and further resolved that Michael C. Tetro, First Selectman of the Town of Fairfield, be and hereby is authorized to execute any and all necessary documents that facilitate the town's participation in the CDBG program. Motion to approve. Representative Ambrose, seconded by Representative Georgitis. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, members of the public? Representative Barnhart. Mr. Barnhart, sorry. You've been elected to office.
No, thank you. I just wanted to call to your attention that there was a revision to the grant from Department of Housing and Urban Development. The grant amount should read $460,120.
$460.
$460,120. 460,120.
Okay.
The program income would be increased by a corresponding amount to $19,880 to offset that reduction in the grant. So the total sources would still remain at $480,000. There are no changes to proposed uses of the funds. But I would ask that the motion...
Amend them. May I have a motion to amend? Representative Garskoff, seconded by Representative McCarthy. Any discussion on this item? Any member of the public wish to speak to it? Back to the body. All in favor of the motion as amended signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Thank you. Item number 10, to consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Resolved that Michael C. Tetro, First Selectman, is hereby authorized to submit a grant application requesting funding to develop a complete streets improvement plan for Southport in accordance with the 2017 Responsible Growth and Transit-Oriented Development Grant request for applications, and further resolved that the First Selectman is authorized to sign said grant application and any other documents associated with administering the grant if awarded, including but not limited to the final grant agreement and any amendments hereto, and further resolved that in administering this grant, if awarded, the Town of Fairfield hereby agrees to comply with the terms and conditions in the final grant agreement. Moved by. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Hurley, seconded by Representative Cargill. Is there any discussion on this item? Representative Hurley.
Michael Hurley, RTM District 10. I just wanted to add, I'm not going to go through all the people that I thanked at the subcommittee, but I did want to say that at the blessing of the fleet in Southport this past weekend, I was able to take a few minutes and speak with Senator Murphy, Senator Blumenthal, and Congressman Himes, and they too are excited about this grant application, and they will be submitting a letter of support over the next week. So, thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, any members of the public? Back to the body, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Forgive me, but on item number 9, we voted on the amendment, but we never voted on the resolution. So, to consider and act upon the following resolution as directed by the Board of Selectmen, resolve that the program year 43, October 1, 2017, September 30, 2018 Community Development Branch is hereby approved in the amount of $480,000, which includes entitlement grants, funds in $460,000, 120, and program income of $19,880. Motion to approve. Representative Georgitis, seconded by Representative McCarthy. Anybody from the public? All those in favor at the body signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Item number 11, to consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved, that in accordance with the request from the Conservation Commission, the town of Fairfield purchase a 2.8-acre undeveloped parcel known as 5655 Park Avenue, Assessors Map 14, Lot 3A, from 5655 Park Avenue, Bridgeport, LLC, for the sum of $167,500, as more particularly set forth in real estate sales agreements between said parties, and further resolved that the First Selectman be and hereby is authorized to expend 50% of the purchase price of said property, 100% of said funds to be reimbursed by the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection Open Space and Watershed Land Acquisition Grant, and that the First Selectman be and hereby is authorized to accept said grant to execute any and all necessary documents to secure said grant, and further resolve that the remaining 50% of the funds for the purchase of said property be taken from H. Smith Richardson Conservation Trust as approved by the Conservation Commission on May 17, 2017. And that the First Selectman be and hereby is authorized to extend any and all documents necessary to effectuate the use of said funds. Such resolution shall be contingent upon 1, the acquisition of the adjacent 7.23-acre parcel of land that is currently owned by the Connecticut Department of Transportation, and 2, the completion of an acceptable Phase 1 evaluation of the property. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Ambrose, seconded by Representative Jones, John Jones. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, any members of the public wish to address this? Back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Representative McCullough. Abstentions? Item carries. Item number 12. To consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Whereas it is in the best interest of the town of Fairfield to enter into contracts with the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, DEEP, to secure United States Environmental Protection Agency Clean Water Act Section 319 non-point source grant in the sum of $81,747 to fund a project entitled Mill River Watershed-Based Plan Development of the WBP and Water Quality Monitoring Program 16-05. Now, therefore, it be resolved that First Selectman Michael C. Tetro is hereby authorized on behalf of the town of Fairfield to expend up to $81,747 to fund said project, 100% of said funds to be reimbursed by said grant, and further resolved that the First Selectman is hereby authorized on behalf of the town of Fairfield to accept and expend said grant, and further resolved that the First Selectman is hereby authorized on behalf of the town of Fairfield to enter into and sign said contracts, and further resolved that the First Selectman is hereby authorized on behalf of the town of Fairfield to provide such additional information and execute such other documents as may be required by the state or federal government in connection with said contracts, and to execute any amendments, rescissions, and revisions thereto. Moved by Representative Dean, seconded by Representative Pam Jones. Is there any discussion on this item? Representative Garskoff.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Josh Garskoff, District 5. Through you, Madam Moderator, to Mr. Carey, if he's here. I'm just curious, so if we do approve this and we do this study, what happens if something gets found? Are we on the hook for remediation, and what kind of risk are we taking financially?
There's no risk. We're already in this game. You know, the point of the study is to basically determine where there are issues, and then it basically builds upon that. We can go back if we do find some issues through the water sampling and the development of the plan. We actually use that to go back and get additional grant funding once it's done. This is just the first step, but we own the infrastructure. We may not own the infrastructure. You know, our MS4 storm sewers, we have a fiduciary responsibility to keep that functioning. But this also goes back to, you know, private infrastructure, septic systems, and it will give us a tool to basically go back and identify issues, whether they're town or private issues. But also, you know, the one thing about the Sasko Brook watershed that we're finding out is a lot of it's just a lot of the water quality issues for that watershed are actually natural and in nature. So the bottom line is there really is no risk for us. It's just about improving the watershed overall.
Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, anyone from the public wish to address this item? Back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Item number 13, to consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that the bond appropriation entitled A Resolution Appropriating $17,300,500, oh, God. This is what happens when you read all night. $17,300,500 for the costs associated with the improvements and renovations of the Holland Hill Elementary School, and hereby authoring the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation be and hereby is approved. Moved by everybody in the room. Representative Durrell. Seconded by Representative Orris. Is there any discussion on this item? Representative Durrell.
Okay. Alex Durrell, District 3. Fellow elected RTM members, we have before us tonight an opportunity to make Fairfield, not just a Holland Hill district, a better place. This is the Berlin Wall. The Berlin Wall has come and gone since Holland Hill School was originally built. I climbed the Berlin Wall in December 1989 and used a sledgehammer to help tear down that wall, and I hope to figuratively do the same thing with the current school building in the near future. Since November 1989, I have owned a home and lived in Holland Hill School District. For close to 30 years, I have walked my dogs around the school neighborhood, and more importantly, walked my children there to school. There is even a brick with my children's names on it in front of the current building. My 12-year-old daughter, who graduated from Holland Hill School 12 months ago, played on equipment installed during the Eisenhower administration, had multiple classes and portables, lessons in rooms originally designed as custodial closets, and ate lunch often in hallways. At Holland Hill School, my wife was the PTA co-president, and I ran Seeds of Enrichment, an after-school enrichment program for students run by volunteers at various schools. When driving to Holland Hill during school functions, or when school was and/or in session, more often than not, I parked my car in side streets or grassy areas located around the so-called parking lot. For over 25 years, I walked over to Holland Hill School and voted for various issues and various parties and their candidates, including for my mom, Jackie Durrell, for her final 2-year term as Fairfield's first selectman. Holland Hill School physically borders my present RTM district, and I now represent the district that includes not only a great deal of Holland Hill School families, but also many families at Fairfield Woods Middle School, as well as the Fairfield Woods Library, as do Representatives Orris, Dean, and Pine, whose children also went to Holland Hill. Fairfield Woods is my district, but Holland Hill is my home. As a former parent and program director of students at Holland Hill School, and possibly the only current RTM member who is presently a Connecticut State Certified Teacher, I can attest from firsthand experience that Holland Hill needs to be renovated. The Holland Hill School District is basically losing the race to save open space, and Cape Cod houses in our district, built for World War II veterans, like my father elsewhere, are being torn down on a numbingly regular basis, being replaced by 3,000 and 4,000 square foot Xanadu's. It doesn't take a teacher, a parent, or a property owner such as myself to make the right choice. Holland Hill is about as middle class and diverse as there is in Fairfield. Current Holland Hill families deserve the opportunity and have earned the right to a better educational facility. My fellow elected officials, we need to create answers and start acting, not reacting, while preparing for our town's future. My fellow Fairfielders, it's time to rebuild Holland Hill School and make Fairfield a better place for our children and for ourselves. I trust that we will make the right decision. Let's get it started.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, any members of the public wish to address this item? Back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention. Item carries unanimously. Item number 14 was the noise ordinance, and that has since been referred back to committee. Item number 15 was heard in LNA. Next up, supplemental warning to the members of the RTM. To consider and act upon the following resolution recommended by the First Selectman. Resolved that a certain contract negotiated by and between the Town of Fairfield and the Fairfield Public Health Nurses, Unit 34 of the Federation of Nurses and Health Professionals, Connecticut State Federation of Teachers, American Federation of Teachers, AFL-CIO, concerning the conditions of employment for a period commencing July 1st, 2014 and ending June 30th, 2020, be and hereby is ratified. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Dean, seconded by Representative Hochberg. Is there discussion on this item? Representative McCarthy.
Tom McCarthy, District 7. Through you, Madam Moderator, the First Selectman. Quickly, in subcommittee, Mr. Hipson explained that in his view, he achieved the goals he had set for negotiation of this contract. I was curious to learn if you share that opinion, and in your view, were goals of negotiation met? And secondly, given the fact that we are already more than halfway through the period of this contract, the nurses have been made whole retroactive with respect to wage increase. However, the new higher cost associated with post-retirement medical benefits is not retroactive. So in effect, it's not an even hand. I was wondering if you had thoughts with regard to accelerating these agreements so that we don't, the town does not have to retroactively provide the post-retirement and medical benefits at what was a higher rate.
There were a slew of questions in there, so let me do my best. First of all, I think when you're negotiating this, it really is a package. So what you're looking at is the total financial impact, and you can take any one item and cherry pick that, but it really is the package together. So specifically in terms of any retro items, you might get that, but you might not get as low a salary increase going forward. And a low salary increase going forward is a very valuable item in this, as well as the shared cost components going forward and the level of those are. So I don't think you'll find, and I think Mr. Hipson handed out some documents that show both arbitrated agreements around the state, as well as negotiated agreements around the state, I think you'll find that this compares very favorably to those, and especially considering we're a AAA town. Now, if we were Hartford and on the verge of bankruptcy, you might have greater leverage in terms of what you're negotiating with, but we're not. We don't want to be. All right? And I don't think you'll find a better agreement sorted out between a AAA town. And I'm going to turn to Mr. Hipson and Emmett. Was there anything you wanted to add to kind of help position this? Pam, as long as it's okay.
So I agree with the first selectman that we look at a package and we looked at a number that we were trying to get to. I don't really want to give away too much of what our number is, but we look at a couple of things. We look at what it's costing us, what the receipt of the union is, and we kind of weigh our options as to whether it makes sense for the deal. I'll let you know that most of this deal were our proposals. The only thing that the union had asked for was retroactive pay, which we had a discussion about last time. But other than that, the issues that are on the table, the wage increases, the healthcare changes, were stuff the town asked for. So the union, it took a while to get this agreement, partly because, you know, the union had to come to grips with, they weren't getting much out of this. They were pretty much giving everything that we were, you know, everything was a give in this contract except for that one item. Second thing that I thought was fair to, or that I thought you should answer, or I should answer, was that we are trying to get the contracts done sooner. The police contract, the fire contract, and the THEA contract all expired, or will expire on July 1. We've already started and exchanged proposals with THEA and fire, so hopefully we can have contracts in, you know, fairly soon to the RTM. So we do want to have long-term contracts with long expirations in them, sir.
Thank you.
Representative McCarthy, you follow?
So if I may, going forward, you would view a protracted negotiation similar to this would be an exception, not the rule.
That's certainly the hope.
Okay. Because again, the concern is, you know, as part of the final agreement, the union members have been made whole on retroactive wage increase, but the town is not made whole, if you will, on the costs associated with the higher with the benefits as part of that contract. So I mean, I think that's not even-handed. But what I'm hearing is, I mean, if we can address that by accelerating these agreements going forward, I mean, that's positive, certainly.
That's the plan, sir. We would like to get these done as fast as
Yeah.
possible.
Mike, I mean, I don't know, please use the mic.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. We would like to get these, get the contracts settled as quickly as possible. Obviously, we don't want to bring back a contract that is not a favorable deal to us, so part of it has to do with, are the unions willing to accept the deals that we're offering? Do we continue to negotiate? Do you go to arbitration? Those are all balances that they have to weigh. But the plan is, and I can tell you that our discussions with the fire and THEA unions have been positive about getting a deal done quickly also. So they would like to see deals done rather, you know, as quick as possible also. So.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would add that our goal is not just to get a deal done quick. Our goal is to get a long-term deal that positions the town the best we can, and that's what this deal does, and that's what our prior contracts have done. When I took over this office, we had 6 contracts that had not been settled and were literally years behind where we were. We have gone through and caught up, but the kind of negotiating we're doing is much different than it was in the 80s and 90s. Because we're basically going out to the employees and saying, we don't want to give you raises, and we want to have you pay more for your benefits. All right? There's nothing easy about that, and the explaining to the employees, when you start talking changes in benefit payments, that's not as easy as seeing what it is on a salary basis. It's a much more complex understanding. They have their insurance experts, they have their comps, they're looking at what their side. So as much as we're not trying to protract these intentionally, these are not simple negotiations. These are much more complex than they were in bygone eras. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure the town gets the best deal, not only in the short term, but in the long term. Because each bridge we step on, as you've pointed out on numerous occasions, we're very much on the same page on that. It's that the short-term issues, but also the long-term liability issues have to be addressed with all of this. So thank you.
Representative Ambrose.
Peter Ambrose, District 1. It appears that the average cost that we pay our full-time employees and the nurses and for health care benefits is $30,143 per person. It just seems to me out of balance with what many senior citizens that I know are getting by way of Social Security benefits. It's appreciably more than that. And I don't know, it just seems to me that somewhere we've got to start paring down that health care benefit or increasing the cost that our employees have to share in the cost of the benefits. It just doesn't, it seems out of whack with what is going on with many, many seniors that live in Fairfield.
You want to address that item? Okay. Mr. Tetro.
Now, I'm going to ask Mr. Hibson to come back up, but I think your number on healthcare is way off. I think that according to the annual budget numbers is what I'm quoting, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 22,000.
Well, I divided the total cost per number of full-time members, and it came out with $30,143. Am I off?
30,000 is a full family rate. It all depends on what tier you're looking at.
I'm sorry.
Emmett, you've got to speak at the mic, otherwise nobody at home can hear you.
Yeah, the actual number is about 22,000. The total health care in there they have is 700. Actually, I had transposed the number. It actually should be 532,000. So it's not the 753 number that's in there. It's 532,000. So that was a mistake that I had made in putting that in there. But the health care cost is about 22,000 for this bargaining unit.
Okay, and that's the number I picked up on.
Yes, and
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Thank you for giving us a chance to clarify that.
Representative Way.
Carol Way, District 5. At our committee meeting, Mr. Hibson, I questioned about part-time employees who are now going to become full-time employees, and the idea that we worked very hard to change in 2013 from a defined pension program being available to a 401A. And I would like some kind of assurance that in the future, when a part-time employee changes to a full-time employee, that change will be honored, that they will not go into a defined pension program. Because you did ask us several times at the committee meeting, too, what were your desires in terms of a contract and things of that sort. Well, this was a desire that we had definitely all agreed upon in the RTM a number of years ago, and we worked very hard to get that passed. And the answer that you gave me was that you thought that if they moved to full-time employment, that they would go into a defined pension plan. And you were going to do some checking on that. To me, that would be establishing a precedent for other contracts that was not a precedent that we wanted. Nor did we ever vote on that. We voted on a 401A for full-time employees hired after 2013. And I would like to know if you did come up with some kind of solution, and that we can be assured that with future contracts, if you are moving somebody, or if someone decides to move from part-time to full-time, that you will honor the 401A requirement.
So I think there were a couple of questions in there. One is, would I honor the defined contribution? The answer to that is yes. The second thing is, who is subject to the defined contribution? And I think you had just stated that we had negotiated, the town had negotiated that all full-time employees hired after a certain date, correct, but that's not what the language says. The language says all employees hired after the date of resigning. So those employees, it says all employees hired after the date of signing. It doesn't distinguish between part-time and full-time. There are employees who are hired that were substitute nurses, and those nurses are not part of the bargaining unit. But the other nurses that were part of the bargaining unit, it appears as if that they would be part of this defined benefit plan. That seems to be the history. I've asked the union, we've met on this issue already, I've asked the union to give me their negotiating history notes, but it appears as if the language was to cover those employees that were part-timers, that were already part of the bargaining unit. If they became full-time, that they would become part of the defined benefit plan. My understanding, there's only one other person that's even eligible for that, so it's not really that big of an issue for us on a going forward basis. But the reality is the language, as it states in the contract, says all employees hired after this date. It does not have the parsing language that you used about full-time. If the town wanted that, and I wasn't here to negotiate that, so I could only go by what the bargaining history says, but if the town wanted to have that language in there, that it was full-time and anybody who was moved to full-time, it would have needed to have the language that said all, part-time nurses are excluded from the defined benefit person also.
However, when they are hired as part-time employees, they are not eligible for any kind of retirement benefits. So it's a different type of job that they are then moving into when they become full-time. There are no retirement benefits at all when they are part-time.
Yes and no. There is no, while they're part-timer, there's not. But when they become full-time, part-time service counts towards their retirement benefit. So they are accumulating credits toward their retirement if they do move into full-time. It's at a 50% basis, but the part-timers are absolutely considered in Article 15, the retirement plan. They are mentioned in there, and there is no distinguishing factor in 1508 to separate them out from who is an employee. I mean, just isn't there for me to argue.
It is in an actual part of...
Carol, please use the mic. You have to use the mic.
I'm sorry. So you're stating that it is actually mentioned in all of the employment contracts and things of that sort, that if they were to move to full-time, that there would be retirement benefits that had accrued as a part-time employee? Where does it appear, is what I would like to know.
First off, are we talking just nurses' contract, right? We're not talking about other contracts.
We're talking about that right now. Yes.
The only contract I'm aware of that has language regarding part-timers is
the nurses.
They're the only ones that are part
All
of
right,
the
that's what
bargaining.
I'm,
So it is limited to
Okay.
the nurses. It's a very specific issue, only that would affect the nurses' contract. And if you look at Article 15, where it talks about the, who's in there, Section 15.07, which is directly above the 1508 language, has full-time and part-time continuous service. So when there's continuous service, if there's a break in service, I would agree with you that they would not be, if they were coming back, that they would not be part of it. But if there's continuous service, and they're members of the bargaining unit, and they get credit for that time, I don't see the basis to deny that.
all right. You did not have all of that information available at the committee meeting the other night. Thank you.
Any further discussion? I just had my own clarification. Director Hipson, when we were in committee, you mentioned that the longevity for this contract does not count towards the pension. But maybe I mistakenly misunderstood that that was the case with virtually all of our contracts, or that's just specific to this contract?
So Eileen, so it does count for it. I was under the impression longevity did not count. In other places I've been, longevity had not. It does count under our pension. Eileen corrected me on,
Okay, so longevity does,
longevity does count towards pension.
okay. And we gave an increase on the longevity, which was not something that we had in the past for this particular contract.
For this particular contract, correct.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on this item? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who wish to speak to this item? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Denise Gilbane, 370 Nepus Road, and I am a member of the school nurses. I am the nurse at Sherman School, and I've been there for 22 years. I would respectfully request that you approve this contract. We did negotiate it in good faith over the past 3 years. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Seeing none, anyone back to the body, anyone from the body who wishes to further address this? Seeing none, I'd like to do a roll call vote. Will the clerk please call a roll?
Kate Ambrose?
Yes.
John Jones? No. Mary McCullough? No. Keith Varian? No. Bill Gerber?
Yes.
Eric Newman?
Yes.
Heather Dean? Yes. Alex Durrell?
Yes.
Robin Orris? No. Ron Pine?
Yes.
Jen Hochberg?
Yes.
Aaron Lopez?
Yes.
Phil Piers?
Yes.
Liz Esma?
Yes.
Josh Garskoff?
Yes.
Ruth Smay?
Yes.
Carol Way?
No.
Jay Walk?
Yes.
Matt Ambrose?
Yes.
Hannah Gale?
Yes.
Pamela Jones?
Yes.
Tom McCarthy?
No.
Jill Vergara?
Yes.
Hank Ferentz?
Yes.
Pamela Iacono?
No.
Christine Messina?
Yes.
Pete Tallman?
No.
Brian Farnan?
No.
Drew Georgiadis?
Yes.
Sam Cargill?
No.
Paul Fattabine?
No.
Michael Hurley?
Yes.
Eric Sunman?
Yes.
Twenty-two in favor, 11 opposed.
22 in favor, 11 opposed. The item carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider and act upon any other matters presented to said meeting which may be properly acted upon under the rules of the representative town meeting. Representative Pierce.
Phil Piers, District 4. I just wanted to report that the amendment to the animal ordinance has picked up 2 co-sponsors, Representative Hurley and Representative Farnan, and I'm appreciative for their support. Thank you.
Thank you. And Representative Durrell.
Alex Durrell, RTM 3. I may have been mistaken, although I said possibly the only RTM member who's currently state certified. Through you, Madam Moderator, I've been told that Heather Dean, are you currently certified? Okay, I'm sorry, it's not on your website with all the fun information. My apologies.
Anything further? I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Representative McCarthy, Representative Farthing, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.